Yeah, and it's interesting, obviously, with some of the stuff that he said, you could come straight back at it, Ale, and say, well, you know, it went down to the wire in the title race last year. Many of these teams have been more entertaining. But I suppose one area where you can pick him up and say, OK, is when he talks about the fouls. Do you think that the referees maybe are a bit too militant in the Serie A, and maybe it could be a bit more free-flowing, the play?
It is a fact. It happened. It's happening. And we are a little bit more soft sometimes, and it's something that definitely we can change in order to bring the product more high. We're touching base about a lot of things now, and Craig said a good point. Well, the stadium and the fans is another point that actually the President Scaroni take in this speak, and we many times we have empty stadium. I mean, 60% is probably the average, if I remember well, of the total average of our fans in the stadium. So this is not something that you want to see on TV, and we have not a great structure. We have not a great stadium. We have old stadium with the lights. It's even sometimes weird. So there's many points where we actually can bring a better product, but it's a long way. But of course, the first thing is recognize the problem. When you recognize the problem, maybe you have a chance to put something together in order to solve the problem or solve part of the problem. It's going to be a long way, and meanwhile, the clubs, they need to survive in a different way. They need to find different way to bring the lights in their own field, let's say like this, and they need to find a way to fight against the big Premier League teams, so Real Madrid and Barcelona or Bayern Munich or Paris Saint-Germain, whoever it is, in a different way with our quality. I mean, we won the 2020 Euros. We won with our quality. We had the best defense ever. So it's, you need to bring something back on the traditional things that we have great, and we have great goalkeepers. And this is not a bad thing to say. This is not a bad thing to start. And then build from there. When something is very bad around us, we have a huge strain, and we come back together, and we tight, super strong, and we saw what happened last year. And we had an amazing result in the Euro 2020. So, generally speaking, we can bring a lot of things, but I think everybody need to start to do their own little piece in order to improve. And we need to come back together in that, clubs, presidents, players, federation, even the state, and, and make some maybe more different kind of laws that, allow the clubs to manage a little bit better their own interest in.
Now, in terms of trying to freshen things up, we've heard about the Serie A tiebreaker that has been approved to come in next season, the 22-23 season, where if the top two teams in the table finish level on points, it will go into a playoff. It's only the teams at the top of the table. It doesn't count for Champions League places or anything else. Do you like this idea, Ale?
Yes, why not? Let's try. I mean, when you end the season at the same point, and you maybe you score a little bit less or whatever, it's the same point at the end of the day. So let's make a huge final, and let's see face to face who's gonna win. It's gonna be a good product actually for to sell internationally as well.
Extra time.
All right.
If level at the end of if level at the end of the 90 minutes, it does go to a penalty. And yeah, obviously the chance of it happening are much slimmer than the two top teams finishing level on points.
Yeah.
But would you mind it going to that?
No, not at all. But we could be sitting here in 20 years' time. I hardly doubt we'll be sitting here in 20 years' time, and it might not have happened. But I think the thing is all these. And I'm not saying the Premier League is the greatest thing since sliced bread. It's not. But it's certainly the beacon in terms of financially that other countries and leagues are looking at. But I don't think they should look too hard at it to try and be that financial juggernaut and be the Premier League, because that's like running an 800-metre race when the person in front's already completed 400 metres. They've got a head start on everybody. They were ahead of the game with this marketing, with how they projected themselves. There's no point busting a gut to try and be that, but they have to be a better version of themselves. Got to package it better. Got to, I know there's laws, and reading through some of the stuff today, I know there's hurdles to go over in Italy, but something like when you're building, when there's more new stadiums been built in London than has been built in Italy for soccer over the last umpteen years, that's telling you that that things need to be updated.
So a playoff's not the answer.
Well, no, I think it's a very short-term answer to get a bit of excitement, but to a very much a longer-term problem.
Right.
Anything that generates a bit of excitement is good. Look at the Championship in England. It generates a bit of excitement through the playoffs. But in terms of Italy, as Ali was saying, there's a longer problem to try and solve for the finances.
Yeah, the FIGC president is actually in favour of a series of playoffs. I don't know how they would actually work, but it has been mentioned, Ale. It looks as though you wanted to say a little bit more on this subject.
Well, back to what Craig said, back to the stadium, for example. I'll give you a couple of examples. We have a few teams that owns their own stadium. The first one is Juventus. And Juventus in the last 10 years did very, very well. And the second one is Atalanta. Atalanta came like a new star in our firmament, and even in the Champions League with an amazing achievement, for the small city like Bergamo, in that scenario. And the other one is Sassuolo. Sassuolo is a great reality in Italian football with young players, with a great way to play. And even if they change coaches or stuff, they have their own stadium, their own facilities, very programming very well. And another one is Udinese. Same things, stable in the middle of the table because this is what they want, but they don't risk that much, go to Serie B or come up or spending crazy money to do stuff. So when you have your home, your own stadium, that's become really your home. And I live that because, my last year at Juventus, we finally finished to build a new stadium, and it was a different vibe, was a different feeling. And you feel as a player, you feel more energy, you run more. I have a feeling to run more. I don't know, but that's the feeling. You impress much more the other players and the other team because it's your home. You can do a lot of more stuff in order to bring people, to bring fans, to get a different kind of product to sell as well. And this is what should be for everybody, every stadium. I mean, Craig said, they built more stadiums in London than in Italy in the last 20 years. It's embarrassing.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.